Hello everyone, this is Wojciech Waśniewski and you're listening to the Participation Coaching Podcast, which is my learning quest. I want to dig into coaching of beginners, juniors and recreational players, so everything about non-performance coaching. Today I'm bringing you Kendal McWade. He's the founder of Instinctive Golf Coaching. He is widely known to be an expert in task-led coaching. He's coaching all levels of golfers from complete beginners up to Ryder Cup stars. I've had a chance to take part in one of his seminars while still at university and it was truly mind-blowing. I'm really excited to be able to share my conversation with Kendal with you today. And in this episode we discuss, among others, Kendal's journey from a teacher-teller to a questioning guide, what he's learned from Fred Shoemaker, the value of clear tasks and task-led learning. What do people want when learning golf and why it's not necessarily nice swings? Why learning to walk should be different to learning how to play golf, or why is it different? Using other sports to teach golf, we talk about some of his tools of trade that he uses in his day-to-day coaching, like the golf hammer, micro driver or the thing, and why he's using them. We talk about his process of teaching beginner golfers. We talk about junior golfers, well-meaning golf dads, and the future of golf. We talk about golf trick shot guys and a number of different things. I think this episode could be an eye-opener for many coaches. I hope you find it as valuable as I did. And as usual, please let me know what you thought of the episode on the website ParticipationCoaching.com. Shoot me an email or tweet me, whatever. And without further ado, let's get into the conversation with Kendal McWade. Kendal, what do you do these days and how did you get started in golf?
Floyd, I started quite late. I was 13 when I took the game up, which was kind of not even of my own doing. I bizarrely got dropped off at the pier to fish when my dad went to play golf, and I never ever had any thoughts of playing golf, but somehow one day when I was 13 I ended up going to the golf course, and I don't think my fishing rod ever saw the light of day again. That was the end of it. So I got kind of besotted by the game and became reasonably adept, only reasonably adept by 16. And then, not being terribly academic, despite being at a very nice school in Glasgow in Scotland, I decided I was going to give golf a bash. So went through the PGA training, but really with a dream of playing, and that was dashed pretty early on when I realised that maybe I wasn't going to be good enough. But despite that, I just kept battering away and trying and practising and working hard. But coaching became a bigger part of my life, and I would say I was not quite a classic technical coach, but I would have said I was relatively technical. I was working on one game technically, and that wasn't seeming to bring the success I wanted, but I just thought that was down to me rather than the stuff I was working on. I went to see Fred Shoemaker, who wrote Extraordinary Golf in 1997, I think it is, and that was a big turning point in my life. He just, as the name of the book suggests, the art of the possible, and he suggested there was maybe another way to learn and coach this game, and I liked what he had to say. I had no idea how to do it, and I spent the next 5 years floundering about aimlessly, trying to apply the principles and not really knowing what I was doing. And I suppose that's been the journey for the last 20 years, really just trying to get better at understanding how we learn and why has golf become so complicated and so challenging for people to master. And I know it is a challenging game, but it can't be that difficult. It's just a stick and a ball, and when you see some of the stick and ball games around the world, when the ball's moving and they're having to run and control it and pass it while people are trying to kill them with a stick, golf seems pretty easy, but somehow it didn't seem easy to me, and it doesn't seem easy to a lot of people. So that's my kind of mission now, just to try and simplify it, help people develop skills, not swings, and yeah, I'm enjoying coaching just general golfers. That's fantastic. But a lot of our time is now spent coaching coaches and working with coaches to try and help them explore the possibilities that we're looking at as well. So, and that's where it leads me today. So, thank you for the opportunity to share my stuff with you.
It's my pleasure. So you went from being quite a technical coach through Fred Shoemaker to launching your own golf school, which is called the Instinctive golf. So what do you think is like the biggest difference between what you do and, let's say, like a traditional coach, or what you did in the past, maybe? Like if someone saw you 20 years ago coaching and then coaching now, what would be the biggest difference?
Probably a lot of telling going on in those early years. So it was technical. There was information transfer. So I was passing over information and they were passing over money, which was quite nice. It's what people wanted to hear. They seemed to like it. Were they getting any better? Probably not, but it's what they expected. So very much what I'd call a teacher-teller. And now I'm far more questioning guide. So I would say I'm non-directive, a lot of questioning, heightening awareness, guiding exploration. So that's really it. And I feel that's probably more at the heart of learning rather than what I used to do. Unfortunately, the industry still remains, I would say, information rich, and I would say that players remain experience poor. So they have lots of information at their disposal, but the actual experience they have with the game isn't probably matching their hopes and dreams. And I want to try and close that gap between what they have, their potential, and actually getting there. So that's really what I'm interested in. It's just truly about learning, nothing else, Floyd. Mm-hmm. We're master learners, but don't seem to have mastered the learning of golf yet.
Mm. So we went more from teaching, well, being focused on teaching to being focused on learning of your students, right?
Yeah, and I think the biggest or the most important aspect of that was trying to develop myself as a player. Even though competitive golf had probably now gone, I still wanted to develop my skills. So I thought, well, if I can't really develop my own skills, then how can I truly help others other than perhaps give them information? So I really was keen to keep developing my own game. So I've got this mad passion for hitting golf balls just to keep exploring my own game and, as I say, develop the skills there and then try and share those experiences with others. And that tends to be my structure now.
Sure, yeah. So what I'm trying to explore with these interviews, well, I'm mainly focused on what I call participation coaching. So I will be coaching beginners, social players, juniors, and like everything that's non-performance related, let's say. Oh, not performance. Well, the performance is not the only lens that we're looking at it. So what do you think, from your point of view as an experienced coach, is there any difference between performance coaching and participation coaching? Let's call it that way.
It's kind of strange you should bring that up, because I just spent last evening in a long conversation with my friend and fellow professional in Germany here, Peter Wright, and we were talking about performance and learning and the crossover, and is it detrimental? Is performance detrimental to learning? And I kept relating it back to the baby learning to walk, and I thought, as the baby is learning to walk, it is also performing its current set of skills, and therefore it was almost as if they merged together, and there was no separation. It was just as I developed more skill, I performed that skill to get to dad, or to get to the table, or to get to the dog, or whatever the baby was trying to do. And I'm kind of seeing that line being blurred much more now, rather than, there's learning and there's performance. I think they should probably run more together, almost seamlessly in a way. So that's what I'm interested in exploring as well with my pupils. And the learner golfer, I think the clarity of skills that they need to develop. Some of the people that come to us have a lot of the motor skills they need, so the hitting skills. But if they don't, then we have to develop them. And how do we do that? So to me, it would not be technique-led, it would be task-led. So a hitting task where people could get absorbed in that, get feedback, non-judgmental feedback, and then start a kind of process of exploration, which I may well guide. Some of them are great guiders anyway, they just explore limitlessly themselves, but some people need more guidance, and I would guide that exploration. But really towards the development of the skills they're going to need to play the game. And that wouldn't really matter what level they're at, but if we're talking about the entry level or beginner level, that's kind of where I would I would take all my pupils at that stage, looking at developing the skills required.
So if you had a complete beginner on a lesson tee, what would the first hour with a complete beginner look like for you most of the time? I guess it's not the same every time.
It's not, but it's very similar. As soon as I meet somebody, we have quite a long conversation and just a chat about their background and where they've been. I'm sure that's not unique. That's definitely not unique to me, but I like to find out a little bit more about them. I think given if it's an adult, then they've probably got quite a lot of motoric skills that are directly applicable to playing the game. Not necessarily, but a lot of people do, I think. They've hit things throughout their lives. So I would be gathering up that information to help them coach. I would explain the process that we're going to go through to help them, and then I would just identify the skills that I'm looking to try and develop. So that could be a hitting skill, it could be a directional skill, it could be anything. It could be lots and lots of different skills that we're looking to apply, but it would be decided upon by whatever their challenges were at that particular point. But I think the important thing here would be clarity of task and understanding how the golf clubs work, what the problem is they're trying to solve, and then working towards finding a solution. So that would be the same for most people at most standards, if I'm honest, Lauren.
So you said that you explained the process. So do you sort of, because you said that people used to like what you did like back in the day when you were more sort of like explaining things and giving out information. So do you sort of prepare your students that your session might not look like what they expect, or do you just go into it?
Well, I think some people come with expectations, and even beginners probably come with expectations because they still have a sense usually of the game, and maybe a well-meaning friend has told them, oh yeah, you'll get the basics right at the beginning and that's important. And I probably would challenge maybe anything that they come to the table with, but in a nice way. Challenging people's beliefs is very dangerous, so we have to do it very tactfully. But the reality is people don't want great basics, they don't want great golf swings, they want skill, and they would give up their beliefs really to have skill. If I gave them the option that they could have a great understanding of something, they could have information at their disposal, they could have a great looking golf swing, or they could have the skill to control the golf ball, but you could only have one, I think there's no doubt which people would choose. They would give up their information and their knowledge and their great looking golf swing, or a desire to have that, to actually be able to control the ball. And I think that goes for everyone. We are the same. I would give up everything. Every tour pro that I've ever been fortunate enough to work with would always say the same. They would give up everything to have control over the golf ball, because ultimately that's what will take them where they want to go. The culture of golf is very strong, and it's very information rich, as I say, and it's orientated towards that. And a lot of people come expecting to be told. And I'll probably just try and keep chipping away at those barriers if I can, to get them to look at it from a different perspective. And when you look at some of the amazing skills we've developed as human beings, information quite often was literally zero. There was no information on how to walk. There may have been some observation of Dad up in two of the four things that I'm on, but it didn't give any information. As Fred Shoemaker said, it's great that we can't communicate before we could walk, or we could be in big trouble. which to me is a great, there's the book. If you can read the chapter on balance, I'll see you in the lounge at 5:00 tonight. So you can imagine that conversation with your baby.
So you said that you're trying to use previous experiences of the learners in your sessions, like other sports that they did in the past. So could you give us an example or two, like how you would use other sports in teaching golf?
Yep, I mean I can apply it, pretty directly, as far as the way that let's say a tennis ball would be spun. That could be interesting for a player to understand that a golf ball spins, and that's what makes it bend, even though it should be quite obvious. It's amazing how that still seems quite a challenge to some people. If you ask them why the ball bends, they may not give you the answer that you would expect, or that they would give you if you asked them why a football bends. They would say, "Oh, it's spin, and a tennis ball, it's spin," but somehow golf gets slightly lost, maybe in all that information. So I might be using it directly like that, so an association with a skill that they have, and I've got some pretty quirky tools that maybe helps them associate that particular motion with another game to golf, so that can be beneficial. And the other thing is just how I would then structure the lesson, because if I get information back from the pupil about maybe the areas that they're not so strong on, it probably then would help me structure the lesson. And it may well be just a hitting skill, so that people haven't had experience of hitting things, and therefore it would just be an experience of hitting, getting feedback, making an adjustment, trying again, just getting that loop that they would have gotten as a child, trying to hit something and failing, inverted commas, and trying again. So it could be either of those. I could be using it either of those ways, and a mixture of both.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned the tools. I've had a chance to see some of them, and they are quite unique indeed. So what are some of the tools that you use?
Well, I do have a bit of a reputation as being a raving lunatic, and when I'm sitting here about to tell you some of the tools, I can understand why. So, probably the craziest one I've got is the golf boot, which is literally a football boot on a golf shaft.
that's cool.
See, you're laughing. See, you're just making a complete fool of me now.
No, I love it. I want to make one myself.
I'm thick-skinned. And I did that because it was interesting as I looked at a golf club, and I thought, the front of it's called a toe, and the back of it's called a heel, and the bottom of it's called a sole. And if applied, it can bend the golf ball left and right. And I thought, okay, a football boot has got a front called a toe, a back called a heel, and a bottom called a sole. And one's got a face and one's got an instep, but primarily they're the same. So I used that to help people understand that the front of the club is called this and that and the next thing, and maybe how they would apply a football boot to bend a football would be the same way perhaps they could explore Philadelphia Golf Club. So we've got that. I've got my golf hammer, which is probably, I think that's probably one of the most well-received aids to learning. So it literally is a 6-iron length hammer. And it happened, it must have been 10 years ago. I knew I was pretty good with a hammer. And I went to the local hardware store and bought a hammer, a little, like a tack hammer. It was a rubber-ended thing. It's not a tack hammer, but a smallish hammerhead, and made this hammer. And I thought, if the game actually was about hitting the ball with this hammer, I really did feel as if I wouldn't need any lessons. It was very challenging, but I just didn't think, I knew I could solve that problem. I thought, that's really weird. And I knew if I wanted to hit it in that direction, this direction, the way I set up and held the thing, almost the tool led me, and it almost evoked a hold, and it evoked a setup, and it evoked a swing. And I thought, that's really interesting. So eventually a friend who was coming for a lesson, who was an engineer, said, I hope you don't mind, but I've made you one of these. And he did say the same. He said, if this was golf, I wouldn't need any lessons. And I thought, well, because he was an engineer. His life had been spent with hammers. So that's an interesting little aid to learning. Then there's the thing, which is a ball on the end of a 6-iron shaft that you can hit other golf balls with. So you have to tee it up. Now, I searched for about 5 years to find a ball that you could hit golf balls with hard. Mm-hmm. And one day, by pure chance, in a sports shop, having failed miserably with a whole load of other things, I tried it in wood, I tried it in this, that, and the next thing, I noticed behind the counter hockey balls. And I thought, hockey ball? So I bought some hockey balls, took them back, drilled a hole right through them. Didn't realise they were hollow. I now know they're hollow. I found a way of connecting it to the shaft and took it outside and started whacking golf balls with it. Couldn't believe how amazing it felt. It was just so solid. But now we're dealing with two round objects colliding. So you can imagine the skill required to get anything to go straight. And I thought, gosh, it's just a great game. It's just a problem to solve, and there are no rules. It's just go and mess about. And when we've given that to various people, the kids just love it. But what's interesting when I give it to the pros is if they're maybe coming to one of our 3-day summits, I would say by the end of the 3 days, if they've been messing about with it for a little while each day, the guys have got the most astonishing level of control over the thing hitting a golf ball, so they can draw it and fade it and hit it high and low with round on round after, I don't know, probably no more than 2 hours over the 3 days of messing about and no instruction whatsoever, just a problem to solve. And you realise when you have a swish at it and the ball does what it does, you know exactly what happened. You can feel it and you can see it and you can make sense of it. There's no confusion. And they just get better by doing. So that's an interesting little tool. I've got a lot of micro drivers. Some of them are probably only about 18 inches long. And to be able to use them, we have a massive big tee so people can tee up. That's a one-handed driver. And again, it's one of those things that nobody has ever played the game of micro golf. And yet, pretty well, everybody that ever explores using it or even just swinging with it is of the opinion that if this was the game and I was to tee it up on a big high tee and hit it with this thing, I think I could do it already. I feel as if I already know how to do this. And if not, I know how to learn how to do this. And there's no information, nothing. In the main, these are flattish-faced clubs or drivers. Very little confusion about how they need to be applied. The ball's up off the deck. They can hit it up, down. They can try and spin it backwards, forwards, whatever, it doesn't matter. And that's an interesting addition to my toolkit. That that goes up to MIDI drivers, which are about 2 feet long, and then up to a little extension of that, a 6-iron driver, which is played off about a 12-inch tee, and they're quite interesting little tools. I've got a golf racket, which is a tennis racket with a golf clip on it, and again, just association with that. We've got golf nails, which are tying in. That's a kind of new thing that we're definitely going to explore, taking this further. I think this has got a lot of value to it. So it ties in with the golf hammer. So then it's a golf nail. And it literally is golf ball with an alignment rod drilled into it. And you just position it whatever way you want, left, right, a little bit down, lot way down, horizontal on the ground. And just clarify again the task. It brings it to life. It simplifies it. Doesn't make it that it's simple, but it simplifies it. And so on and so forth. So lots of those. I could go on and on and on and on about all the craziness, but some people do say, where did these ideas come from? And it's worrying. I don't know, Floyd, but they just seem to pop up from the dark recesses of my mind. I think I need to get out more.
But it works, right? You can see the effects.
Well, it does, yeah. They're fun, and it's interesting you say that it works. They don't produce skill. They don't give somebody skill, but what's interesting when you bring them up is the clarity with which people see the problem that they're trying to solve. And what appears to be the case is most people are filled with confusion about the game and what the problem is they're trying to solve. But that doesn't happen when you give them these tools, and it's that clarity that I'm always trying to get them to. And when it's that clear, they don't seem to need as much, if any, information, and they need less guidance. And so they enter into that very human learning state that we've all got at our disposal.
Do you think that the problem is sort of with the high lofted clubs like irons, that it's not very intuitive for people how they should be used?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of confusion. I'm in a country where they've got a little bit of a different take on loft. The Germans have a little thing they talk about some of the pupils suffering from loft, because I was saying that loft may be an issue. I meant visually, but the German coaches were talking about the pupils actually having a lack of talent. So it was a lack of flipping talent, but I'm not sure it was flipping that they were using, but it was, and that was their take on loft. But I think loft is confusing. I think when you look down and a face is facing up and to then be trying to convince somebody that really the delivery force is either forward or varying degrees of down, it would never be up. I can see why you might think, gosh, how do I even hold this thing when the face is facing up? So, yeah, I think that is the case. And that's why a lot of us would start learn our golfers with flat tools, drivers on the deck, and then work towards perhaps introducing loft and explaining how that operates. That isn't always necessary, but I think it can be a way to again keep everybody nice and clear as to what the thing is. Flat tool on the ground, hit it on the ground over to that target. I think that's pretty obvious task, whereas bizarre looking angled face and how does this work and how am I supposed to get up in the air when it's on the ground? So yeah, I think there is confusion with that.
That's very interesting. I haven't really thought about it. So using a driver as using a driver first. I guess you could use a putter, but it's a bit of a different task. But it's very interesting.
It's not designed as well for the application of force.
Yeah.
You could use minimal force, but it tends to be more of a control tool, doesn't it, rather than maybe a force tool. But yeah, it's certainly an interesting way to go, and probably worthwhile the guys exploring it that are listening to this, just to see what their experiences are with it.
Do you change the way you coach when you deal with junior players, with kids? I know you're coaching some like performance squads, but I guess either performance squads or like beginner kids, is that at all different, or is it the same process?
I would say it's very, very similar, irrespective, right through to the tour pros. I would say that nothing changes except the task that they're given. So I have to then temper the task to the place that player is at. So trying to just find that little challenge point above where they are just now, keep them interested, but don't make it so challenging that they lose interest, but don't make it too easy that they lose interest. So just trying to find that balance, which is very challenging, trying to find a good challenge point. And then, the same process of questioning, guiding, exploration goes on for all of the boys. A lot of the youngsters, once given a task and a problem to solve, just love going away, and they don't need any help, some of them. Others, are looking for a lot of help and guidance, and maybe that's something to do with the journey they've had in life rather than anything human. I think, the first golfer didn't have much support. He was just trying to figure out how to, hit this pebble over there with his crook, if that's what you believe happened in the Links land of Scotland. So there was no help at hand. Yeah. Everybody thought he was a raving lunatic as well.
Have you found that the younger kids nowadays, or let's say compared to like 10 years ago, do they come to you and like expect more guidance?
Yeah, I think most kids come having been got at by a well-meaning dad. And the well-meaning dad cannot let learning happen. From day one, his beliefs are that we need to get the basics right at the beginning. So I'm going to show you how to grip it. I'm going to tell you how to stand. I'm going to tell you what you did wrong. So a lot of telling, a lot of dependency being created by the dad over the child, and presumably coming for a golf lesson, they expect just another level of that. But I would say most of them quite enjoy not. And we do a lot of fun stuff, a lot of tricks, and exploring, trying to find tricks to do that are going to help them on the journey towards mastery of the golf game itself. But when you're dealing with trick shots, of course, there are so few rules, because the kids are coming up with things that I've not seen anyone ever do before. So which book did they read? Well, they didn't. They just kind of delved into this amazing capacity they've got to be creative and have fun and learn. And that's empowering for me. I love when I see that. But yeah, a lot of kids' expectation, like a lot of adults, is they expect to be told, and they don't expect the level of questioning that they get and exploration that we embark on. That's not what they normally come to a golf lesson expecting.
But they get used to it, and they, as they say, they do enjoy it in the end.
They do. I would just keep using analogies of lots of other things that they have successfully or got successful at in their lives. It could be business, it could be anything. When you dig deep enough, the great cook has just made a mess of enough meals to become very adept at it. Put too much of that in, not enough of this in, and therefore learn through bitter experience. And the successful businessman has usually made more mistakes than other businessmen, and perhaps lost businesses over and over again to eventually become incredibly successful. But I think that process they had to go through to eventually get where they got, and I need to keep relating that to golf. I think that they think the information that I give them will then give them the skill, because that's what they want. When we dig deep enough, that's what they're after: more control over the ball, more skill. And they think that information will give them that, but unfortunately all that information will give them is knowledge, nothing else. And as Einstein said, learning is experience and everything else is information. And I'm trying to keep the information to the very bare minimum, what they need to know, no more than that. They don't need to know the other bits, they need to discover the other bits, but I'm trying to keep it very simple.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I'm exploring as well with these interviews is let's say the future of golf. As we know, like the numbers are in the decline. Do you think there is something that we as coaches can do so that the future of golf looks brighter? Or what are the problems from your point of view of golf these days? Like why is it not growing at a rate that we expect it to be?
Well, not only is it not growing in our country, in Scotland, in Britain, it's going the opposite way.
Yeah,
dramatic. We reckon, because I'm quite involved in a junior tour in Scotland that's been going on for about 12 years or thereabouts, and we reckon there are 50% less junior golfers in Scotland than there were 12 years ago. Now, that's the home of golf, and we are really struggling to get people involved in it. I think if I was just to be brutally simplistic, it would be it's not fun. It's not cool. And to me, then the best chance for me right now that we've got is guys like Wesley Bryan, the Bryan brothers. That to me is the best chance of getting kids interested in golf.
So these are the trick shot guys, or?
Yeah, that's the two trick shot artists. Now, for Wesley, I know George hasn't gone on to do what Wesley's done, but for Wesley to embark on a playing career, as the both boys did, but to then be able to fund it just by doing tricks, to be then pretty well the coolest trick shot artists in the world, and finally use that amazing journey to develop their skills to a level where Wesley ends up getting his tour card last June and winning on tour this year, and now sitting, I think, currently 44th in the world, and from nothing, literally, from just obscurity. And I think that's just an awesome story. And some of the little video clips that are out there that have been made about the boys is just fantastic. As he says, I could throw the ball up and hit the fairway if I was to hit it on the fly with a driver. So he said, surely if it's sitting on the ground, I can find somewhere between those two sets of trees. So, I think that's an incredibly refreshing, exciting potential there to get the kids involved in that. And there are no rules with these tricks that these guys have got. There is no technology behind learning those skills. No TrackMan, no force plates, nothing is going to help you hit a golf ball that's coming off 4 slabs of concrete or in the dark when you can see nothing except a glow ball. Now, that is amazing. That just tells me everything about how astonishing human beings are at problem solving and performance, because it's like that constant kind of journey of exploration, discovery, performance, learning. It just goes round in a big circle. So I think there's a chance there. I held a Happy Gilmore Pros Challenge in London for charity about a couple of months ago, and all the guys, including Tour Pro, Seniors Tour Pro Paul Eales, took part in it, and the guys had to step into every shot, maximum of 2 steps, but they had to be on the move on every shot, and they had to play the putts split-handed, so they couldn't connect their hands together. So we really did try and live up to the what Happy Gilmore was about, and it was just fantastic, and the guys loved it, and it was like they were all out in their ice hockey shirts and some fantastic images, and it was like, wow, this shouldn't be happening at a golf course, but it was just laughter and hilarity, and I thought, there might be a chance if we look at the game from those perspectives for the kids to think this is cool, rather than, you have to wear this, that, and the next thing, you're not allowed to change the clubs and the shoes in the car park, and there'll be no laughter on the golf course, or you'll be shown the door, or whatever it might be. So, we are quite a stuffy sport, but it's an amazing sport, and we need to get the kids back in the game and loving it and being passionate about it, and that may be a couple of avenues that could help. It could help.
That's amazing. Just to finish off, if people want to learn more about you or connect with you or learn more about instinctive golf, where should they go? What should they read? How they can get in touch with you?
Well, you'll see a few bits and bobs on Facebook and YouTube, and we're about to launch a new website called The Instinctive Golfer. And that's got to be done in conjunction with a very good friend of mine, Stephen Orr, who's one of the most amazing young coaches, that I know, certainly in the UK. And we're going to be trying to create something that has learning at its heart, but a lot of research behind why perhaps this might be a way to consider helping people learn. So that's going to be launched relatively soon, so people watch out for that. But I'm happy that they get my email address. It's just kendal.mcwade@btconnect.com, and that'll be changing as well. But, call me, phone me, happy to chat to anyone.
This is Wojciech again. Thanks so much for listening. If you have any sort of comments, feedback, whatever, shoot me an email at hi@ParticipationCoaching.com, or you can go to the website, ParticipationCoaching.com, and comment below this podcast episode. On the website, you can also sign up for the mailing list. So if you want to subscribe and receive the updates of all the new episodes on your email, no spam, go to ParticipationCoaching.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate if you could share it with your network. And after all, the more people know about this sort of stuff, the better off we all will be. So thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.